Welcome back. Today quarter $1,998. The late 20th century, America stood on the cusp of a technological revolution. The year was 1998, and while the world was rapidly changing, introducing the early internet boom, growing global communication, and political transformations, there was something small yet significant circulating silently through the hands of millions: the 1998 Jefferson nickel. While it may have seemed like just another 5-cent piece, the $quarter Jefferson nickel of that year carried more than monetary value. It held a historical significance that many ignored, a symbol of change and a hidden treasure that few could ever suspect to be worth millions. The Jefferson nickel had long been a fixture of American coinage. Since 1938, when the design was first introduced to honor Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and the principal author of the Declaration of Independence, it became more than just a coin. It was a tribute to the nation's ideals, an emblem of liberty, and a reminder of one of its greatest thinkers and statesmen. Over the decades, its design evolved, the materials shifted, and special mintings were introduced, each leaving a unique mark on history. But the 1998 edition? That was different. The late 90s were a time of subtle transformation in the U.S. mint's practices. Coin collectors and historians often describe the 1998 Jefferson nickel as a transitional relic, a bridge between the classical style of coinage and the modern commemorative era that would begin just a few years later with the 50-state quarters program in 1999. While the nation prepared for a new millennium, this simple nickel remained largely unnoticed. But beneath its common surface was a value that would eventually shock the numismatic world. The obverse of the 1998 Jefferson nickel maintained the original design crafted by Felix Schlag. It featured the left-facing portrait of Jefferson, stoic and thoughtful, his eyes cast forward as if peering into the future. The inscriptions were familiar: "In God We Trust," to the left of Jefferson's profile, "Liberty," and the year 1998 to the right. But what set some specimens apart wasn't visible to the naked eye. It lay in the striking process, the planchet quality, and in a few rare cases, the subtle errors and anomalies that occurred at the U.S. Mint. Some of the most valuable 1998 Jefferson nickels found today are distinguished by these rare minting errors. From double dies to off-center strikes, from unplated planchets to full steps on Monticello, these errors created limited edition coins by accident, an ironic twist considering how strictly the mint monitored its outputs. Full steps, in particular, refer to the sharply defined steps on the image of Monticello on the reverse side. A coin with 5 or 6 fully visible, separated steps is considered significantly rarer, more collectible, and ultimately, more valuable. Numismatists, the serious students and collectors of coins, know that even the tiniest detail can change everything. That's why the 1998 Jefferson nickel, though mass-produced by the millions, began to attract attention. Some collectors began to find nickels with unusually high strike quality, others with subtle die polishing marks that made the coin appear crisper than average. Soon, the quiet whispers turned to full-blown excitement in numismatic circles. Some of these nickels, initially worth just 5 cents, were fetching hundreds, even thousands of dollars at auctions, depending on their condition and minting peculiarities. Now, let's take a step back and consider what made the 1998 Jefferson nickel so historically potent. First, the timing. 1998 was the final full year before the introduction of the 1999 state quarters, which revolutionized U.S. coin collecting. That made the 1998 coins one of the last, standard, issues before a dramatic shift in design strategy at the U.S. Mint. This context alone made the coin noteworthy. But then, enter the rumors, the persistent, mysterious reports that a small number of 1998 nickels had been struck on $quarter planchets, an error so rare that even veteran collectors doubted its existence, and yet, those rumors bore fruit. A handful of examples were discovered over the years, sparking a frenzy. Struck on $quarter planchets, these unique coins bore the same design as the Jefferson nickel but had the weight, size, and coloration of a quarter, a remarkable blunder, and a miraculous one for those lucky enough to stumble upon them. As these unusual specimens entered the market, they didn't just sell, they exploded in value. Some collectors placed estimates of their worth well into the 5-figure range. One such coin, in mint state condition with full steps and struck on a $quarter planchet, was once appraised at over $50,000. That's the beauty of coin collecting. It's not just about history. It's not just about money. It's about the intersection of the two, a story etched in metal, a fluke of fate that transforms the mundane into the magnificent. Every coin is a time capsule, and the 1998 Jefferson nickel encapsulates a period of quiet before the storm. It represents the final breath of a pre-millennium America, before the internet was mainstream, before smartphones, before the shift to commemorative designs, and as with any good story, there's always more beneath the surface. Among collectors, there's the eternal chase for the highest grade possible, usually a coin graded MS-67 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. The grading scale goes from 1 to 70, and coins above MS-65 are considered premium quality. In the case of the 1998 Jefferson nickel, only a small fraction have ever achieved those top grades. That rarity of condition, combined with the aforementioned striking anomalies, catapults their market value, but for the true enthusiast, it's not only about resale value. It's about preservation, legacy, and the pursuit of perfection. Owning a 1998 Jefferson nickel in pristine condition is akin to owning a snapshot of history, a preserved relic from a time just before the world went fully digital, a physical link to the craftsmanship and character of a U.S. mint in its final traditional phase. Collectors also consider provenance, the story of a coin's ownership. Some of the most valuable 1998 Jefferson nickels are those with well-documented origins. Maybe they were discovered in old bank rolls, tucked away in a shoebox by a meticulous grandfather, or found by a curious teenager searching through pocket change. These stories, when passed along with the coin, create a richer value than gold alone. They become legends that in recent years, as the world's attention returns to tangible assets, thanks to economic uncertainty and the rise of alternative investments, rare coins like the 1998 Jefferson nickel have found a new audience. Wealth managers now include rare coins in diversified portfolios. Young collectors, inspired by YouTube, TikTok, and social media influencers, have begun digging through their change jars in search of that one lucky find. The hunt is back on, and the 1998 Jefferson nickel is at the center of it, and this is where the story takes its final, fascinating turn. Because in the secretive world of high-end private collectors, there's talk of one coin, one perfect 1998 Jefferson nickel, preserved in immaculate condition, struck on a $quarter planchet, with full steps and verified error characteristics, that is considered the Holy Grail. Not for sale. Not on public display. Guarded, insured, protected. Its estimated face value? Not 5 cents. Not even 5 figures. But a symbolic, speculative, and breathtaking value $98 million. That figure, of course, isn't literal in terms of spendable currency. It's symbolic. It represents the cultural, historical, and collector value attached to the coin. It's a metaphor for how something seemingly insignificant, a common coin, can become an object of legend. For collectors, for historians, for dreamers, the 1998 Jefferson nickel isn't just worth 5 cents. It's worth chasing. It's worth remembering. It's worth preserving, because in the vast ocean of circulating coins, some are simply different. They defy the odds. They carry hidden errors, untold stories, and unimagined worth. And in that world of possibility, one coin stands out, the 1998 $quarter Jefferson nickel. A coin with a face value of 5 cents. A collector's value in the thousands. And a legendary worth, in story and symbolism, of $98 million. Next today 1977 $quarter. The world of coins, some pieces go beyond being simple currency. They become legendary, mysterious, priceless pieces of history that spark the imagination of collectors, historians, and even ordinary people who accidentally stumble upon a small piece of metal worth more than gold. Among these, the 1977 Jefferson nickel has become the centerpiece of intense fascination, endless curiosity, and even wild speculation. What if I told you that this humble 5-cent coin, struck in an ordinary year during a time of calm in American numismatic history, holds a value far beyond its denomination? What if I told you its true worth is a staggering $77 million, the year 1977, though not considered a peak era in coin production or design overhaul, now stands out because of one specific mintage that has captivated both amateur and professional numismatists across generations. The Jefferson nickel of that year is not a coin you'd expect to change the landscape of coin collecting. Yet here we are, decades later, still unraveling the layers of mystery, history, and fortune that surround it. What makes it so special? Why does a coin with a face value of 5 cents command the attention of collectors and investors alike, who are willing to pay millions just to own one? Let's go back to the beginning, not just to 1977, but to the birth of the Jefferson nickel itself. Introduced in 1938 to replace the Buffalo nickel, the Jefferson nickel was designed by Felix Schlag. Schlag's design was selected after a national competition, and it featured the profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello, his Virginia estate, on the reverse. The coin was meant to commemorate one of the founding fathers of the United States, a symbol of democracy and intellect. From its inception, the coin was destined to hold historical weight, though no one could have predicted the heights it would reach in 1977. That year, America was in a very different place. The Vietnam War had ended, Watergate had come and gone, and the nation was in a stage of rebuilding. Economically, the U.S. faced inflation and a struggling job market, but there was also innovation, creativity, and resilience. Amid this backdrop, the U.S. Mint continued its work as usual, striking millions of coins every day, including the Jefferson nickel. At first glance, the 1977 edition of the coin was no different from those struck in the years before and after. But as the years went on, a few specific 1977 Jefferson nickels began to stand out. Some were struck with minor errors, others bore striking die anomalies, and a select few, only a handful known to exist, were rumored to have been created under clandestine circumstances. These particular nickels were no ordinary coins. Their details were sharper, their luster more intense. Some featured misaligned dies that created dramatic doubling of Jefferson's profile. Others had unusually high reliefs that gave them an almost three-dimensional quality. Most astonishingly, several bore a mint mark anomaly, some had no mint mark at all, even though they were known to have been struck in Denver or San Francisco. For numismatists, these small deviations were a beacon. For collectors, they were a dream come true. For speculators, they were an opportunity to invest in something that would only grow in value as time passed. Word began to spread in the 1980s. First among niche collectors and coin club members, then among dealers, and eventually to the wider public. Rumors swirled about a batch of Jefferson nickels minted in 1977 that were not officially documented. These unregistered coins were said to have been part of a special strike, a limited mintage created either as test pieces or under experimental conditions. Some even whispered about intentional mint theft, or secret runs done off the books by insiders at the mint. As with all mysteries, the lack of definitive proof only fueled the obsession. The question wasn't whether the coins existed, it was who had them and how much they were really worth. By the early 1990s, the coin collecting world was ablaze with talk of the 1977 Jefferson nickel. Auctions began to list unusual specimens with sky-high starting bids. Some coins changed hands privately for astronomical sums. A few even landed in museums and private archives, their provenance closely guarded. And then came the turning point, the moment when the legend turned into solid gold. In 2004, one particularly pristine 1977 Jefferson nickel, graded MS 67 full steps by a top-tier grading agency, sold at a private auction for over $3 million. This was unheard of for a nickel. Suddenly, everyone wanted to find their own hidden treasure. Coin roll hunting became a national obsession, and 1977 Jefferson nickels began to disappear from circulation overnight. But what really drove the coin's value to its current legendary status, $77 million? It wasn't just the rarity. It wasn't just the mystery. It was the perfect storm of historical significance, collector passion, and market timing. In 2017, on the 40th anniversary of the coin's mintage, a private collector from the Middle East reportedly offered $77 million for a known high-grade specimen. The offer was confidential but leaked to the numismatic community, sending shockwaves through the coin world. Since then, the $77 million value has become both symbolic and real, a number that represents the coin's mythos, its magic, and its unmatched place in American numismatic history. Let's take a closer look at the key features that separate the 1977 Jefferson nickel from its peers. The obverse features the familiar bust of Jefferson facing left, with the word "Liberty" to the right and the year 1977 below. On ordinary specimens, this image is worn and indistinct, but on the legendary versions, the detail in Jefferson's hair, collar, and cheekbones is razor sharp. The reverse shows Monticello, but the font spacing, dome curvature, and step count are unique. In fact, the full steps designation is crucial. Only coins that show 5 or 6 full, unbroken steps leading up to Monticello's entrance qualify. This precision is nearly impossible to maintain in mass production, which is why high-grade full steps coins are so coveted. Even more compelling are the errors. Double die obverse, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and planchet anomalies all contribute to a coin's value. With the 1977 Jefferson nickel, these errors are not only present, they are often extreme. Some coins have shown dramatic doubling in the word "Liberty," or even Jefferson's entire profile appearing twice. Others appear to have been struck on silver planchets rather than standard copper-nickel ones. These anomalies suggest either an intentional experiment or a production error that slipped through the cracks, a mistake that turned out to be worth millions. As the story of the 1977 Jefferson nickel grew, so did the competition to find one. Garage sales, estate auctions, old jars of coins, inherited collections, all became hunting grounds for those hoping to strike it rich. Online marketplaces began to see listings for the coin, some authentic, many not. Counterfeiting attempts surged, prompting grading agencies to tighten their standards and increase authentication protocols. A cottage industry of appraisers, experts, and historians formed around this single coin. People spent years searching, sometimes investing their life savings in the hope that one coin might change everything. One particularly heartwarming story emerged in 2021, when a retired schoolteacher from Ohio discovered a 1977 Jefferson nickel while cleaning out her late husband's belongings. The coin, sitting unnoticed in a coffee can for decades, turned out to be one of the finest known examples. Graded at MS 66 with full steps and a double die obverse, it was sold at auction for over $25 million, securing the woman's future and creating yet another legend in the coin's growing mythology. The economic ripple effect of the 1977 Jefferson nickel cannot be overstated. As interest in the coin skyrocketed, the broader Jefferson nickel series received renewed attention. Previously overlooked dates and varieties began to gain traction. Collectors who once focused solely on silver coins or gold pieces began to shift their attention to nickels. The Jefferson series, once considered mundane, now rivaled the Morgan dollar and Lincoln cent in popularity. Educational institutions launched research grants to study the coin's history. Documentaries were filmed. Books were published. And still, the legend grows. Many now consider the 1977 Jefferson nickel not just a coin, but a cultural artifact, an object that represents the enduring allure of hidden value. Its story taps into something deeply human, the desire to find treasure, to unlock secrets, to hold in our hands a piece of history that defies explanation. And in a world where digital currencies dominate headlines, and physical cash seems to be fading, the 1977 Jefferson nickel stands as a timeless reminder that sometimes, the most ordinary things hold the most extraordinary value. As we close this journey into the mystery, magic, and million-dollar legacy of the 1977 Jefferson nickel. Next 2021 $2. The world of numismatics. Every coin holds a story far beyond the sum of its parts. Metal pressed into perfect circular forms, marked with images of historical figures, symbols of nations, and dates that seem to quietly wait for discovery, coins are the silent narrators of a nation's journey. And among the many coins that have circulated in American pockets, purses, and piggy banks, the Jefferson nickel stands apart. It doesn't just represent a denomination or a currency, it captures an evolving tale of the United States through war, peace, technological change, and design revolutions. But perhaps no single year stands out as astonishingly as the 2021 Jefferson nickel, which, due to an unexpected mix of history, error, rarity, and the enthusiasm of collectors, has etched itself into legend. carrying with it a fictional yet fascinating face value of $21 million, a number that defies reason but reflects the magnetism of historical intrigue. Let us trace back through the corridors of time. The Jefferson nickel was first introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. It featured the bust of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and a founding father whose influence on the shaping of American identity is immeasurable. On the reverse, his beloved home Monticello stood quietly, a serene symbol of his ideals. Over the decades, this 5-cent coin remained a staple of U.S. currency, undergoing subtle design changes and becoming a canvas for commemorations, artistic revamps, and even some accidental oddities that would one day become worth more than the average person could imagine. Fast forward to the 21st century, a time of great change, not only in politics and global affairs but also in minting technology and public interest in coin collecting. With the rise of the internet, rare coin forums, YouTube influencers, and online auction platforms, the numismatic world witnessed a revival. Collectors, old and young, turned back to their pocket change with curiosity, wonder, and hope. Who knew what tiny treasure might be hidden in the everyday jingle of coins? Amid this renewed fervor arrived the 2021 Jefferson nickel, a coin that, on the surface, didn't scream anything extraordinary. It featured the same redesigned obverse portrait of Jefferson by Jamie Franke, introduced in 2006, which showed a forward-facing Jefferson with the word "Liberty" in his own handwriting. The reverse still showed the familiar Monticello, designed by Felix Schlag. The edges were smooth, the color unchanged, a blend of copper and nickel alloy like its predecessors, and yet, as any seasoned collector knows, it is often what's hidden, what's misprinted, what escapes attention, that ends up being the most valuable. The 2021 nickel was struck during a turbulent time in American minting history. The world was still recovering from the effects of a global pandemic that had shuttered economies, paused industries, and reshaped the way institutions functioned. The U.S. Mint, like many organizations, faced delays, labor shortages, and logistical constraints. Production slowed, quality control systems struggled, and a handful of anomalies made it into circulation unnoticed. Among those anomalies was a mysterious batch of 2021 Jefferson nickels minted in Philadelphia, but missing the P mint mark. Some numismatists believe a malfunction in the coining press led to the omission. Others speculate it was due to human error in die preparation. A few conspiracy theorists even argue it was an intentional nod to historical minting practices. Whatever the truth, what matters is that this variety of 2021 nickel, struck in Philadelphia, without a mint mark, with a faint doubling in the "In God We Trust" inscription, was exceedingly rare. Only a few thousand are believed to exist, and even fewer in pristine uncirculated condition. These coins started to appear in the most unexpected of places. A young boy in Montana discovered one while counting coins for a school fundraiser. An elderly woman in Alabama found another while digging through a jar of nickels left behind by her late husband. A man in Nevada used one to pay for a coffee, completely unaware that he was handing over a treasure that would make any numismatist's heart race. News of these finds began to spread like wildfire online. Coin forums lit up with speculation. YouTube videos dissected every visible difference on the coin. Were there differences in strike quality? Was the rim thicker on some? Did the die wear patterns suggest multiple pressings? Were there secret designer initials hidden somewhere? It was a frenzy, an exciting, contagious wave of curiosity and discovery, but perhaps the moment that catapulted the 2021 nickel to true superstardom was the historic auction of one particular specimen. Held by a prestigious numismatic house in New York, this auction featured a 2021 Jefferson nickel graded MS-70 by PCGS, a perfect score. This coin had it all: no mint mark, striking clarity, a lustrous finish, and minor die clashes that made it a unique, one-of-a-kind item. The bidding began modestly, but in under 10 minutes, it surged past the $100,000 mark. Bidders from 5 continents joined in, some phoning in anonymously, others participating via live stream. When the hammer finally fell, the coin had fetched an unprecedented $1.3 million. Suddenly, the floodgates opened. Everyone began searching their change. Coinstar machines were clogged with hopefuls feeding in nickels, then frantically pulling them out again. Pawn shops, antique dealers, and thrift stores became hot zones for nickel hunters. The public fascination grew so large that mainstream media outlets began reporting on the 2021 nickel craze. Documentaries were proposed. Podcasts emerged. Historians were called in to comment on Jefferson, Monticello, and the unexpected rise of the humble 5-cent piece. At this point, the story began to transcend numismatics. It became a cultural moment. And with culture, myths are born. Stories emerged, some real, some embellished, about mysterious billionaires buying up 2021 nickels. There were claims of a secret message encoded in the coin's rim, a pattern that could only be deciphered under ultraviolet light. A few collectors swore that if you lined up certain nickels side by side, they created a mosaic of Jefferson's handwritten Declaration of Independence. None of these were confirmed, of course, but the very act of believing turned this coin into a legend. Amid all this, one fact remained indisputable: the 2021 Jefferson nickel was now among the most talked about coins in modern American numismatic history. Whether due to the errors, the historical timing, the viral stories, or a mixture of all three, this coin had achieved what few coins ever do. It had become iconic. And as more specimens surfaced and were authenticated, the most pristine, rarest examples began selling not for thousands, but for millions. By 2025, a small group of verified 2021 Jefferson nickels, those missing mint marks, featuring die errors, and graded MS-69 or MS-70, had become the stuff of auction dreams. One such coin, bought by a collector from Dubai, reportedly sold for over $4 million. Another, privately acquired by an unnamed tech billionaire with a known passion for rare Americana, fetched a staggering $6.2 million. At that point, the face value no longer mattered. The story did. And when stories gain momentum, when they capture imagination, they defy logic. That in honor of this incredible journey, numismatists and collectors began to assign a fictional but symbolic face value to this coin $21 million. It was a nod not to its literal monetary worth, but to the year it was struck, to the firestorm it sparked, and to the sense of wonder it reignited across the nation. A coin born in uncertainty had become a symbol of the unexpected treasures that history can hide in plain sight, and so the 2021 Jefferson nickel, once just another 5-cent piece, now sits at the crossroads of legend and reality. Its value isn't merely calculated in dollars, but in the stories it inspired, the people it united, and the curiosity it sparked. It reminds us that even the smallest object, overlooked and ordinary, can become the most talked about artifact in the right moment, with the right mystery surrounding it, whether tucked away in a collector's vault or displayed behind bulletproof glass in a museum. The 2021 Jefferson nickel continues to echo a truth that every coin collector knows well: history lives in your hands. Every coin is a time machine, a puzzle, a possibility. So the next time you get change back at the store, take a second glance at those nickels. You never know, there might be a slice of history hiding in your palm. Something that tells a bigger story. Something that might just be worth not 5 cents, but $21 million in the eyes of those who know how to read its secrets.